All right, we are ready to get started with our Sunday family night. I don't have any announcements to make. Give money to Adam for fried chicken or bring him fried chicken here on Thursday night. He needs fried chicken for the youth series. Richard, you sitting back there with that group looks like the bad kids in school. Oh, okay, all right. We're glad you're all here. I don't doubt that. I assume we have a song leader. Oh, sorry, Traven. All right, let's get started.
We'll get our worship started off this evening with Come, Let Us Worship and Bow Down. As the deer. As the deer pants for the water, so my soul longs after you. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. break my heart. Break my heart, dear Lord. Tear the barriers down. Show me in convicting tears the glories of your crown. My heart is my soul's unseen. Sorry, with the wings of eagle blossom high. Sorry, I need you, Lord. Come inside and gently break my sin is great, but I can see the glory set for me. Show me, Father, where to start, and gently break my heart. My heart is my soul's unseen. Sorry, go with the waves of eagle blossom high. Sorry, I need you, Lord. Inside and gently break my heart. Days of Elijah. These are the days of Elijah, declaring the word of the Lord. And these are the days of your servant Moses, righteousness being restored. And though these are days of great trials, of famine and Our next song is Pierce My Ear. Shine, Jesus, shine. If you're willing, you please stand for the song. I was not accustomed to that ending, but we'll go with it. You may be seated. All right. Step by step.
All right, good evening, everyone. I feel like it's been I don't know, I feel like it's been a while since I've been up here. It's kind of crazy. Because it has been a crazy little bit. I guess we did have VBS, but VBS is kind of a blur in my mind. Turn over to Luke chapter 15. It is family night, so I typically intend to revisit a story that a lot of us might have heard all our lives. Something that we might be familiar with, but hopefully to represent it, maybe think of it in a few different lights. And you might be very familiar with Luke chapter 15, because there are a lot of lost things. There's a lost sheep, there's a lost coin, and there is a lost son. Which is interesting, because when Jesus is speaking these parables, he has different ways of relating to you. Have you ever lost a sheep? You ever lost a coin? You ever had someone leave your life? You know what that feels like. Have you ever lost anything at all? I'll tell you part of this story. Okay? This is not involving me. This is involving my roommate in college. If you want the full story, ask me when I'm not on a microphone, and maybe I will tell it to you. Because it is a little embarrassing for him. Jared, if you ever watch this, I'm sorry. I had a roommate through college. His name was Jared. And he was only there 4 years. I was there 5. But his entire 4 years of college, we were roommates. Literally, even when we moved out into a house that we shared with 2 other guys, there were only 3 bedrooms. We shared the room. We were actual roommates the entire 4 years. Jared became notorious for one thing. He lost everything. The story that I will tell you partially is of our freshman year. And the dorms at Faulkner, they had, the ones we were in, had a physical key. Not like a key card or a little pass. They had an actual metal key to get into your door. Within the first week, he loses his. About a month later, he loses the spare. So he has to go to the door mom and say, hey, do you have any more? She says, yes, because that is a good, responsible thing for a dorm mom to have, is extra keys. And so we go away on a little fall retreat to camp. In the end of October, he loses his key at camp. Then he goes away for Christmas, loses another spare key. By the end of the semester, he lost 8 of our dorm keys. Which is funny because we never locked our doors. There's more to the story that I can tell you later, but it's funny because you lose something and you realize the importance of what was lost, and you realize that there is something missing, right? Now for us, maybe not so, because we still got in and out of our dorms pretty easily, but you lose something and you realize the importance of it. I have been missing my sunglasses for about the past month, and in the middle of summer, I recognize the importance of what is lost, and I have been looking for them. I'm just going to have to replace them, to be honest. I can't find them anywhere. And so we get into the story of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. And it all starts off with, wouldn't you guess, some Pharisees. Oh, we love stories that start with the Pharisees. In verse 1, it says, all the tax collectors and the sinners were coming near to him, talking about Jesus, to listen to him. Both the Pharisees and the scribes began to grumble, saying, this man receives sinners and eats with them. Okay. We know what the Pharisees are like. They're very high and mighty, and they are better than everyone else. And look at me, I follow the law perfectly. In fact, I follow the law so perfectly, I take it beyond what should be, and I will impress that upon you as well, so that we are all perfect. And if you are any less than that, you're a sinner. So how dare you even associate with sinners? How dare you eat with sinners? That's ridiculous that you would do that. And just from that, you notice, again, there's no mention of them saying this to him. Jesus just knows because he's Jesus. And he tells them 3 parables. The first one is, it says in verse 3, it says, he told them this parable saying, what man among you, if he has 100 sheep and has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the open pasture and goes after the one which is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. I tell you, in the same way, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. So again, like I said, he's finding different ways to be relatable to people. Because he could tell the same story 3 times. He does. Something is lost, something is found. But he does it in 3 different ways because there is an audience. There is a group of people that are there that are all going to relate to something different. Some of them will understand, okay, if I have 100 sheep and I lose one, that makes sense. I'm going to go find that one because of the value of one sheep. And it might not seem like much in the grand scheme of things, but when all you have is 100 sheep, 1% of that is a big deal. Then he goes on to say, in verse 8, what woman, if she has 10 silver coins and loses 1 coin, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and search carefully until she finds it? When she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, rejoice with me, for I have found the coin which I had lost. In the same way, I tell you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Again, hitting them somewhere that is familiar to them. Now he's aiming for their pockets. Okay, maybe your livelihood isn't in sheep, but maybe your livelihood is more in the coins. Maybe you have physical money that you deal with often. And this time he hits them a little hard. He said, instead of just 1%, what if it's 10%? Okay, so what if 10% of all of your savings were just gone? I want you to picture in your head, if you will, if you're a person who, knows how much money they have in their bank. Picture in your head, 10% of that is just gone. What are you going to do? Automatically, I am calling Chase Bank and saying, what is happening? Someone has stolen my credit card. Okay, something's going on. We need to figure out where has that gone. But once that's found, once you get that back, then there is great rejoicing. There's excitement and like, okay, we're good. Even though from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, what has changed? Does the lady still have just as much money as she did before? Does the person with the sheep have just as many sheep as before? So why are we rejoicing? Because something was lost and is found. And like I mentioned before, when something is lost, we see the value in it. And I think we as humans sometimes fail to see the value in things as we just have them. You know, if you were to think about sunglasses, I'll use my sunglasses. How many times I just casually put on my sunglasses and say, okay, I got my sunglasses, we're just going about our day. And I never once think how difficult it would be to drive at 3 o'clock in the afternoon without my sunglasses. I might not think about that, but once it's gone, you recognize the value in it. Now that's something that is a human characteristic. What is interesting is that is never something that is a characteristic of God. See, as he's going through this, he's presenting these parables in a way that we can relate because we are humans. But you see all throughout the Bible the value that God places on us. That he understands that even before we become lost, he sees value so that if we become lost and then are found, it's that same rejoicing there. It's understanding the value of what is found. Which then, that thought leads into the last parable. We call it the prodigal son. I'm going to refer to it as the lost son just because we're trying to tie in all thoughts together, right? It says, verse 11, he said, a man had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of the estate that falls to me. So he divided his wealth between them. And not many days later, the younger son gathered everything together and went on a journey into a distant country, and there he squandered his estate with loose living. Now when he had spent everything, a severe famine occurred in that country, and he began to be impoverished. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would have gladly filled his stomach with the pods that the swine were eating, and no one was giving anything to him. But when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired men have more than enough bread, but I am dying here with hunger? I will get up and go to my father and will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired men. So he got up and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion for him and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his slaves, quickly bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fattened calf, kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found. And they began to celebrate. There are a lot of sermons that you probably hear about the prodigal son. There are a lot of lessons you could probably hear about the prodigal son. This is the one that I want to focus on, the idea of being lost and being found and value. Because you have one, the younger son, and the rest of this goes on to talk about the elder son, which is more of kind of directed towards the Pharisees. Say, this is you guys. We're going to focus a little more on the prodigal son here because he comes up and he says, hey, I want what you owe me when you die. And then the father says, okay. He says, okay. I mean, the prodigal son comes along and says one of the most offensive things, if we're being honest. He basically says, hey, I kind of wish you were dead right now so that I could just have my money. Can I just get my money instead? But the father, seeing value in him and caring for him, says, okay, sure, here you go. Take it. And the son becomes lost because he leaves. The idea of being lost is just being away and not knowing how to get back. So he becomes lost. And when you think about it from the perspective of the father, when something is lost, it's not knowing where something is. The son was lost to the point where he spends all of his money and he loses everything, and there's a great famine, and then it gets down to the point where he says, I wish that I could just eat pig slop. The son was lost and realizes how to be found. And this is what I like about the prodigal son, the story of the prodigal son, is that in contrast with the lost sheep and the lost coin, with those two stories, you have someone seeking what is lost. With the prodigal son, you have the one that is seeking what is lost, and the lost one seeking to be found. The relationship there that builds until we have the reunion and we have the rejoicing. All of this because the Pharisee said, you know, this guy eats with sinners. And what is the point? Jesus sums all this up in these stories to say, yes, they are lost, but they're on their way to being found. And that is worthy of rejoicing. So, let's start a Kahoot. Grab your phones, go to kahoot.it, and we'll have a code come up here soon. All right. Kahoot.it, code is 808-6463. I just realized that someone somewhere at some point in time has had a Kahoot, and the numbers have been 8675309. And that is a joke that half of the people in here understood. All right. The wise sea lion. A lot of wise things in here today. We'll see how wise you are. I like Captain Hare. Captain Hare. Sounds like an alter ego for Bugs Bunny. All right. Wait just a few more seconds. I'll say 30, 45 seconds, something like that. And let people have enough time to jump in. All right, let's get started. Sorry, really, I just wanted to stand up here awkwardly. That was my goal. Happy to do so. That's it's been the theme of my entire life. He needs me to sign in. I can just tell you all the passwords so everyone here knows how to get into my account. You mean to sign back in? Yeah. Try going back, it didn't work. I don't want you to see my password. Okay, and I think, I don't want to add a Kahoot. I want to.
Why don't you go up there and I'll try?
Okay. All right, Clayton is our technical wizard, so he's figuring things out. I don't remember how I did anything. Really, Clayton just wanted me to come back up here and stand even more, so I can just stare at everyone. Hello. All right. I think he's got it figured out. Oh. All right, let's try again. Kahoot.it 6800809. Is that? Kahoot.it. And there were about 33 or 34 people in, so once we get that number, we'll start it out. Now instead of Captain Hare, it's Captain New. There's a Captain New now. Oh, now we have more participants. All right. Now let's get started. Let's give it a shot. It was because he was eating with sinners and tax collectors. Okay, the yellow Impala is at the top with Creative Yeti and the Kind Zebra. Let's see what's coming up next.